The first time I ever saw that house, it looked more like a monument than a home. Gray stone tall windows and a kind of silence that pressed on your chest the minute you stepped inside. I remember clutching my daughter's little hands so tight my knuckles turned white. Work was work, and I needed every hour I could get. But that morning, the storm had shut the schools down, and I had no choice but to bring her with me. Her name's Mia. 6 years old, all curiosity and big brown eyes, still in her unicorn pajamas with a stuffed bear clutched in her arms. I told her a dozen times, stay close, don't wander, be invisible. But kids have a way of hearing what they want, and her curiosity was stronger than my warnings. I was scrubbing down the marble counter when the silence struck me too deep, too sudden. I called her name once sharp, then again fear spiking my voice. Before I could move, I heard her voice floating down a hallway I'd never dared to step into. By the time I found her, my heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. There she was standing barefoot in a doorway, offering her beat-up teddy bear to a man who looked like he hadn't spoken to another soul in years. His name was Victor Hale, the man who owned the estate. A millionaire, widowed, broken. Folks whispered about him like he was already a ghost, his wife and little girl gone in an accident that left the whole town shaken. He never smiled, never came downstairs for meals, barely acknowledged the staff. Just drifted through that house like it had swallowed him whole. And here was my daughter, small as a whisper, holding out Mr. Buttons, the same bear she'd dragged through playground dirt and tucked in beside her at night, like it was some kind of sacred offering. Victor didn't reach for it at first. He just stared, his face unreadable, the weight of grief hanging heavy in his eyes. Then his hand trembled, slow and unsure, as he finally took the bear from her. My girl looked at him and said with this calm little voice, "He helps when I'm scared. You can borrow him." It was like the air shifted. He blinked, almost like he'd woken up from a nightmare. And in that moment, I didn't see a millionaire. I saw a man who'd been drowning for so long he forgot what breathing felt like. I pulled her away gently, heart still hammering, convinced I'd be fired before the week was out. But the next day, when I passed Victor in the hallway, he looked at me and nodded. Just a slight tilt of his head, but enough to shake me to my core. It was the first sign that maybe something was changing. Mia didn't stop there. She drew pictures, houses with suns and cherry trees, stick figures holding hands, and insisted on giving them to the man in the sad room. Each time she did, his silence cracked just a little more. One morning, she marched straight to the dining room, and there beside Victor's massive chair sat a small place setting, her purple cup clean and waiting. She squealed, "That's my spot," while I stood frozen in the doorway, too stunned to move. Victor's eyes met mine across the table, steady and direct. "She can eat here, if she wants." His voice was rough, like unused piano keys. I couldn't speak. I just nodded. Mia climbed into that chair without hesitation, and for the first time in years, laughter echoed through that dining room. But peace never comes easy. His mother, Eleanor Hale, arrived like a storm one afternoon. Cold, sharp, the kind of woman who could cut you down with a glance. She walked through the house, noticing everything: Mia's drawings on the fridge, the little chair by the table, the bear sitting on Victor's desk. She turned to me with a smile that wasn't a smile and said, "Don't confuse his grief for affection. He tolerates you. That's all." Her words burned like acid. That night I sat on the edge of my bed and cried into my hands, not because she'd insulted me, but because I was terrified she might be right. What if we were nothing more than placeholders? What if my daughter was just a shadow standing in for the child he lost? Days later, I packed a bag quietly, ready to slip away before dawn. I told Mia, "Sometimes we have to leave before we're asked to." She looked up at me with those big eyes and whispered, "Did we do something bad?" My throat clenched as I said, "No, baby. We just don't fit here." But before I could open the door, Victor appeared. Not furious, not demanding, just desperate. His voice cracked as he said, "Please, don't go." I tried to brush it off, told him he didn't owe us anything. But he stepped closer, his eyes raw with something I'd never seen in him before. "You think this is about owing you? I was alone before you came. Not just in this house and everything, and I don't want to be alone again." I let go of the doorknob. The bag fell to the floor. And in that silence, something shifted between us. Not romance, not yet, but a truth neither of us could deny. We mattered. From then on, he led us into corners of his world no one else had touched. He sat beside Mia at the piano, fumbling through broken notes until together they pieced out a lullaby. He watched her plant flowers in the garden, naming each one with a kind of sacred certainty. Lily's blossom for his daughter, Mom's hope for me, and William's smile for him, even though he tried to hide it. For months, the house grew lighter. Meals at the table, drawings on the fridge, the sound of laughter mixing with quiet conversations, until Eleanor returned, this time with lawyers, contracts, threats about control of the estate. She called us strangers. She called my daughter an intrusion. Victor didn't flinch. He stood tall eyes steady and said, "You keep calling them strangers, but they're the only reason this house feels alive again." Eleanor tried to cut him down, accusing him of making a fool of himself. He didn't shout. He just signed the papers in front of her, stripping her of her control. "You don't make the rules here anymore," he said calmly, and for the first time he chose life over legacy. That night, Mia climbed onto his lap under the cherry tree, leaned against his arm, and asked the question that broke him open. "Do you think your little girl would have liked me?" He froze, eyes shining, then pulled her close with one arm. He didn't say a word, but he didn't need to. His silence told the whole truth. Yes, she would have loved you. On the anniversary of his daughter's passing, Victor unlocked the room that had stayed closed for nearly a year. He let us in. He said her name Lily for the first time in 11 months. He told Mia she had your courage, and when Mia handed him her bear again and said, "He wants to stay this time," Victor placed it gently on the bed and whispered, "I think that's a good idea." That night, we sat together on the floor of Lily's room. Victor opened a new photo album, one he'd given me weeks earlier, now filled with drawings, snapshots, and memories we'd made. On the last page, he wrote in careful handwriting, "Family begins again here." And maybe it did. Maybe family isn't about blood or money or the walls we build to keep the world out. Maybe it's about the people who walk into our silence and bring light without asking for anything in return. But I'll leave you with this: Eleanor's words still echo in my mind. She warned me not to mistake grief for affection. Was she wrong? Or is grief exactly where love begins again? You tell me, was Victor right to choose us, or was Eleanor right to fear it? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I want to know what you've seen, what you've lived through. And if this story touched you even a little, hit subscribe and stick around. We've got more stories that'll make you question what family love and justice really mean.